Welcome to Greige Against the Machine, the podcast where we celebrate the extraordinary talent and accomplishments of lesser-known and even unknown artists and creatives. I'm Lisa Catara alongside Justin Harvey, and each week we'll explore the minds and stories of the journeymen and women behind your favorite films, shows, ads, music, and more. Those who craft magic without the red carpet spotlight or public eye, because everyone has a unique story to tell, and sometimes the most inspiring voices are the ones you haven't heard yet.
Welcome. Another episode.
21. We're of legal age today. Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yes.
so the show's having cocktails today. This is amazing.
There we go. Well, I mean,
Wait,
I'm alcoholic, but hey.
I have water. You have LaCroix. We're super duper party in here, but it's LaCroix.
Come on now.
LaCroix. Is it hot where you are yet?
This is the South. It's kind of always hard to breathe outside when you walk out the door this time of year.
Well, I have a feeling today is the last lovely, amazing day in Cleveland. So I've been enjoying it all day. So,
but you know what you have to look forward to? You've got that gorgeous fall. So
yeah,
like that.
Those days will be amazing.
I wanted to do have someone special on the show today for our legal drinking age show. Yeah. So years ago, 2005, I moved to LA. I landed in the Studio City area, and long story short, it's a bit of a community. Everybody kind of knows each other for the most part. We eat at the same places. We kind of hang out. There's a great music vibe and whatnot. And
I was all about Moe's, for the record. Moe's
was kicking. I was all about aroma and bougie places. But in that community are just tons of working professionals in the entertainment industry, and you become friends and you hang out and you go to barbecues and share stories and spend holidays. And, I was lucky to be adopted into a community. And there's this one guy we call the mayor of Studio City. Everybody knows Peter. And he just is that guy that integrates everyone, and everyone knows him. The joy is there. And through him, I met an extraordinarily talented actor with a legacy career. It's really something to be proud about. Almost, I want to say 60 years, 6 decades of work in the entertainment industry. Yes, I consider him an icon. I consider him my friend. And one of the loveliest, most humble human beings I've ever met in the industry.
Is it this guy?
It's this guy. It's Barry Livingston. So yes, you will instantly recognize Barry. If you watch television and film at all, he is the master of the guest star appearance, which is wild to me because he's just kind of been in everything. I mean, we're talking like Lois and Clark, Doogie Howser, obviously, ARGO, War Dogs, Social Network, Jersey Boys. I mean, a couple of Oscar Award nominated and one Oscar Award winning film, The Orville, General Hospital. And, if you're like our parents, you probably watched him on his very first ever show for which he did over 230 something episodes, My Three Sons.
Amazing. I feel like there should be a to be continued over there on that list somewhere.
Oh no, I had the hardest time narrowing down just a handful of things that were relevant that people would recognize. After that, you got to go to his IMDb and check him out.
Look, this is the show that is the unscripted journey of working class Hollywood, and clearly Barry has worked.
He has worked. He's working. I hope he never retires because he's still on my bucket list.
Well, God bless him. Should we bring him on and say hi?
Yes.
Let's bring in Barry Livingston.
Hi, see you later. I gotta go.
That's okay. We got you, though. We got you. Are you out of time already?
Nobody needs to know anything else other than that.
Is there something on your rider I should have read?
There's not M&Ms. I'm sorry. There's no green M&Ms. I can't do this show. I'm not coming out of my trailer.
No worries. We won't have those for you. We'll make sure they're nowhere in sight. Barry, hi. Thank you for coming on. It's a big deal to us. Justin and I started this just to basically hang out with our friends and colleagues and tell stories of working class Hollywood, people who are in the industry, the stories that aren't boastful, the ones that don't get a lot of attention in the press for all the best reasons. You haven't had any scandals. So, yeah.
Not that I'm going to talk about. I mean, hey, I'm not at this point. I'm not going there.
So you're not ready to like break bad and try the darker side of life at this point. And
The darker side of Barry Livingston. It's pretty white bread, really. But
what would that even be?
I grew up in the business, so I'm no angel, and I've done my share of bad things. Not bad things, but you misbehave, particularly when you're
Right.
young. And if you didn't, you missed out on some things. And if you learn a few things, so much the better.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually curious because first of all, you've seen so much change in this industry over these decades. It's like every 10 years, there's a major change with technology, there's a major shift in what's popular. But also, as a child actor, first of all, how do you find that balance between having a normal child life if you had one, like going to school and all that, or how do you relate to kids at that time? But also, what's it like having a job, like work? You got to go to work.
Well, I mean, it was a challenge growing up. It's a challenge growing up, period, and then throwing fame into the mix, I went to public school in addition to studio school. So, that presented some challenges because people think, mainly, they see you on TV. And, sorry, but people are somewhat naive to always assume, oh, that's who you are. Yeah, what they ever
Right.
saw you on my piece. Oh, he's that guy. And, I'm to a degree, probably, but for the most part, no. So, there's that dichotomy going on in my head about how I think even people are perceiving me. That's probably wrong too. But,
Sure.
when you're growing up, it's all kind of trial and error. And so going to public school, I went to North Hollywood High and Millikan Junior High and a few Vine Street Elementary School, Wendell Evans, Riverside, so I did the full public school experience.
Wow.
And again, that can again, throwing in the fact that you're on a show that 30 million people are watching every week, like
Yeah.
my friends, that presented.
I feel like it's kind of ideal though that that's your hood, like you're born and bred, like that is your neighborhood, because any other neighborhood, if you were going to such a special job and then walking out into the general public that didn't understand Hollywood, it could have been, I think, a lot more uncomfortable than in the community where we were.
Yeah, I mean, with adults, adults probably would be aware of,
Sure.
or assume they think they know what I'm experiencing as a teenager or beyond. Kids are, can be all over the map. Some accept you as who you are. Some are bullies. Some are intimidated. Some think you're scamming on their girlfriend and you're not. Some,
Good for you.
So, that those were all, but those things happened probably in some degree to every kid growing up in high school.
Sure, but when you're under a microscope and people have questions, and like you said, you're paying a character, it's not necessarily indicative of who you are and what you believe in. And
particularly the show was representative of a certain type of American life when it started in 1960. And by the time 1969 rolled around, the culture in the world had changed so dramatically that that what was true in 1960, maybe a little more reflective, probably not, but still that was the tone of the show. By time 1969, show went off in 72. So the whole culture and television itself were radically different. We hadn't changed that much, though.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, I was watching the show maybe even a decade after that quite frequently. It was one of my dad's favorite shows. And so when I was young and it was in syndication, I watched it. Like, I've been literally watching you my entire life from all of your various roles. So something about being Ernie had to hold up. Like, what do you feel like really held up from that show, even with the changing times?
Well, it was, Fred McMurray was a major star. I think everybody involved, the talent was all top notch. And so, the themes and topics that seemed relevant in 1960, were passé and bizarre in 1972 when drugs and the sexual revolution and all of that had occurred. And we were still, Ernie's still, doting on his lost skateboard. That's the thing. It was odd. I mean, jumping forward a few years, I did an episode of Will and Grace, and I worked with Michael Douglas.
Wildly different.
On Sand Streets in San Francisco. But ironically, I'd read in the trades that he was trying to reboot My Three Sons. and try to get a modern day version. So this is probably in the 90s. And, just by coincidence, I would have had no other way to even pose the question to him other than we wound up being cast in the same episode. And I said, what happened? Is it going to happen? He goes, no, because he thought the show, it had a certain charm and people would expect that. But he also thought it should reflect some of the problems of kids today.
Sure.
And that he found like they could never get a script that had both those elements for him. And he was going to play the Fred McMurray, the Steve Douglas. So I thought, that's interesting because, he was trying to look at the world of teenagers in the 90s and incorporate that into a new version of the show. But he felt like, well, that would be really, really too far from the original.
Right. At that point, you just call it something else and do something different.
Married with children, I don't know what you call it.
Right. Exactly.
I'm married with children because he was famously a widower.
Right. No, there's a timing for things. Like for me, I know we do a lot of remakes. I know they're safe for Wall Street and it's a great investment. They're like, well, if it worked in the past, it'll work again. I actually disagree. I feel like certain things that are so iconic that we've lived through need to stay where they are in the past. I feel like we move away from them and there's so many new stories to tell. I mean, I look at the different shows that you've been on, all 5,742 of them, and they're so different. These shows are so different. There's crime drama, there's documentary style drama. There's movies that are about relevant life situations and movements. Social media was a big deal. The Social Network was a very big deal. Jersey Boys, very big deal. It's more fun to tell the new stories than to keep rehashing the wholesome goodness that we love.
Well, that's the economics of right now in the business is that everyone really is playing it safe. And the safe bet is let's make Mission Impossible 29. I didn't see the first 28, so I have no thing Mission Impossible 29.
I'm with you.
But that's the nature. I get it. And it's a safe bet. And people are putting up a lot of, I think it was like $400 million budget, which is insane.
Jesus.
Well, and it's not doing great, but they'll also find a way to make that back, which is why it was a safe bet, because just in the catalog of the library of that series, it can make a bunch of that money.
They'll, Tom Cruise is not hurting, I'm sure, and
he'll be okay.
I think he's okay with that franchise, but I think he just recognizes he can't do that anymore, and I think they're going to put that to bed. But that doesn't mean that they won't put a new guy in there to be Tom Cruise's guy, and that's how it usually works. And I saw he's gonna reboot some other show that everyone knows that he probably is age appropriate to do these days.
I mean, I get it. I do get it. We want to keep Hollywood alive. It's just, we have friends that are writers. There's no shortage of scripts with original content. They're just kind of sitting in vaults somewhere under these studios. I've got a couple of scripts that I would love to see that are about things that I would like to watch.
Well, that's what indie films have tried to fill that void. Everybody now has to look at it like to sell it to Amazon or Netflix because, getting a movie into a movie theater is exclusively in the hands of Marvel and Mission Impossible type movies and Lilo and Stitch. To have a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or American Beauty or whatever these one-off kind of wonderful movies, really hard to get stuff like that, a mainstream mass distribution.
For sure.
Nobody wants to put up $40-50 million to get those done. So I've done a fair amount of indie films and they're interesting and some are really good, but again, it's not going to get the same exposure.
Of course. I mean, of course, your reach, it doesn't always mean that work begets work if it lives in a vacuum and never really sees the audience that it could. Yeah. But you also never know, and it's making relationships. Part of me wonders too, I mean, for you, with your accreditation, at a certain point, you could have exclusively said, listen, agents, I only want to do huge feature films. I want to be a movie star. I want to do big stuff. And you seem so content and happy, and I love it. I love to see you in it. To just pop on a show and then go away, and then
I like seeing like my pension going up every year.
That too.
Because
that's very smart.
I did the Rookie, and I was in one scene, and blah blah blah, and and it plays forever, and it, and again, I mean, I'm not any great quality script is I'm more than happy to read it.
Amen.
Sometimes it's a money gig, and
yeah, for sure.
And I've never, I don't think I've ever been at that level that I can pick and choose and just say no. I very, very rarely have say no. Sometimes I do, but for the most part, I look at it and I go, okay, let's be realistic. Is this even going to be made? I'll go wherever and we'll film it and I'll get my paycheck and that's nice. But, and you hope it'll get released. But at the same time, you go, probably not, or at least not in a.
I mean, shows like The Rookie, shows like, CSI Los Angeles, or, all these shows that we've done, like you and I didn't realize, I always wanted to share a credit on a program with you. We did on The Rookie. And I had no idea.
That episode? Yeah.
I had no idea. The carjacking, I had a part, I saw the credits. I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, again, you don't know who else is working on different days.
Yeah.
And it was shot during COVID. So I remember spending most of my time in a little tent on set. Trying
the drawer with your mask in it and the poor girl trying to rush it.
It's so hard to to work like that, but it was work, and we're grateful that we're getting something done at least.
We do adapt well. The whole COVID thing we had to adapt very quickly if we wanted to make any content whatsoever.
I'm still trying to figure out the zones that we're supposed to be in. That was the weirdest part, when it was like right in the middle and it was the heaviest, and I actually had work doing a Netflix thing, and it was like, you're zone A, but you can't associate with anyone from zone B, and zone C is off site. And I was like,
to isolate if there's a problem, you isolate how many people are affected.
And you wear your mask until they say, okay,
right.
And then you're talking together.
Okay, action. Boom, did you see? Okay, cut. Put your mask back on. There was all of that going on too. So
I was directing a show, and my main AC did not know what my face looked like until maybe 4 months into the gig, when we were outside at a restaurant somewhere, and she saw me and she was like, are you Justin? Like, yeah, we've been on the same shoot for 6 months now.
I know. Yeah, we were in bed together. Don't you remember me? No.
It was such a strange time for every part of our industry.
I mean, and again, you adapt, and you just be grateful you're working. That's all I know.
Can I ask you a question, Barry? What do you think has been the key to your longevity in this business? Because I mean, you're booking like it's been the same forever. You just show up and you do your thing, you get your gigs, and they're always great. And like, your level of consistency, I think, is something that everyone in the business should and does aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound egotistical but I have talent that I've tried to cultivate over the years, and I nourish that and challenge myself to do things that outside the box. Sometimes I love to do theater. I just actually worked at the Pasadena Playhouse for the first time and did Cyrano de Bergerac.
Oh, yes.
I wasn't Cyrano, but Chuck Iwuji. I don't know if the name means anything, but if you're in the Marvel universe, he was the high exemplary, I don't know, something in Guardians of the Galaxy, but incredible actor. But that was the dream come true for me, so just being on stage with somebody as incredible as Chuck was
quality
a great
work.
Really, really, really fun, great experience. So,
sad that I missed this. I would love to have.
You do an awful lot of work, and we did something like 5 weeks of rehearsals from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. They wouldn't let you go either.
I remember.
Days a week. And then they open and run it for 3 weeks. And I was like, wow, that's an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
And really good work, and it paid off. It was standing ovations. Every performance was a standing ovation.
And doesn't it feel good to it's live? You're so alive in those spaces.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of live theater, is that you're performing and literally without a safety net. It's no cut and let's redo. If you go up in your lines, somebody has to bail you out.
Yeah.
And, or you somehow improvise your way out of it. So yeah, that was. But again, back to your question, you have to be patient because there's a lot of ups and downs, and I've had my downs, and I try to keep busy, try to not get discouraged. All those things can lead to eventually crashing and burning, and that's the last very.
We know people, yeah.
I know a bunch of people, and really better actors than me, I think, some of them. So, but maybe they didn't have as thick a skin, and
Yeah, it's the things that are beyond your control, like a pandemic or the strikes, technology. You gotta have a really thick skin.
Well, and you got to be able to. I've learned more and more to not be afraid to reach out to people and ask for help. And you got to do it so you don't.
What is that?
On Facebook, there's quite a few people I've made an effort casting people that I know through the years. Don't see them in person anymore, so I thought, well, I think they might not mind if I just drop them a quick note about some project that they might be involved in. Because you're kind of veering out of your lane when you're doing that, and you could very easily go, well, I'm never. He should know better than that to bug me about. But I'm at the point now where I go, if I hear about something, BOSCH came about that way. I did ARGO, and sitting next to me when we did the film ARGO was Titus Welliver. We just happened seated next to each other, and conversation ensued, and we struck up a friendship. And fast forward 2 or 3, 4 years later, when BOSCH was starting to happen. And I kind of had to be pushed into it by a friend who said, you should reach out to Titus. You should, because I heard about the part of a medical examiner, and I've done that before. So I said, send him a note, and he was, of course, I'm on it, and I was like, yeah, great. Well,
well, there's that out of sight, out of mind thing too.
Yeah. So, but then he's the kind of guy that we didn't forget. Because he got back to me and go, did you hear from casting yet? And I said, no, I haven't. He goes, you will. And again, I did, and wound up doing, a number of episodes. But again, that was through kind of swallowing my pride and ego. I'm going, I don't want to beg for work, but at the same time,
you're available. You're an option. I know you are anything but arrogant. I've known you for years enough to know, like, Barry Livingston is a very humble man. He's very chill. You know who you are. You're comfortable in your art, in your craft, and you should be, because your brand is phenomenal. And you're just, life. Like you know who you are in the space that you exist in. Being around you is comfortable, welcoming. I reached out to you and asked you to do this. You didn't hesitate. You're that person.
It's different when you really know somebody. I mean, it's best we know each other. So, to a friend, I'm more than happy to make whatever effort I can. And I'm not that busy, frankly. So I got time, and if it helps, great, and
I have every intention of making you busy. I am working on it, just so you know, but I won't bother you until I have the things we need.
Yes, well,
mostly the money.
Money is a key thing, and it's funny. I was at the gym yesterday, and there was some girl. Nothing may come up, but I was on the elliptical, and there was an actor next to me. I won't mention his name, but he was a pretty well-known actor. And so this girl was at the gym, and I saw her go up and goes, I just want to get back to you. I know we talked about this project, and 2030. Again, I'm listening to this going, it's budgeted $20-30 million, and I'm going, that's nice. Have it, but I'm thinking all this stuff, and then she starts saying, we got this producer guy, I recognize his name, and things are moving forward. And anyway, so jokingly, she went onto the elliptical on the other side, and I said, well, what do you got for me in this movie? Because she didn't make any effort to you're an actor? I said, yeah.
Oh, geez.
And then, one thing led to another. And, again, I was like, well, being a little proactive there. And then she said, I'll send you the script. I haven't got it yet. So, but nonetheless, it was another lesson.
That's a great story. This is how it works.
A shot, whatever. Yeah. I don't care. I know.
But honestly, they say like work begets work, and so do relationships. Some of the jobs that I've booked are so random. You know, I meet somebody, they happen to need an actor, I fit the bill, I seem like
You're helping them
talk
out
at the same time. Yeah.
You're doing them a favor in
Yeah.
some regards, because they're looking to fill that hole and fill it as well as they can. And again, there's a project that I'm going to be doing in about a month or so, and I'll tell you, I'm going to dance around it because I can't say it. But
Yes,
it's going to be the biggest film of the year, and
Oh,
it's
I
not
can't wait.
ARGO, it's not Mission Impossible, but
Good.
it's directed by somebody I've worked with a few times, starring an iconic superstar actor, superstar writers. But again, it came about because I knew the casting lady, and she's been so sweet to me over the years. And again, this person casts this director's work all the time. So again, I kind of thought, well, it's worth a shot. And anyway, she said, I'm always looking for stuff for you. I thought, okay, but
I believe
haven't worked with you in about 5 or 6 times in years.
So listen, there was a pandemic, there was a strike.
Yeah, no, I get it. And again, but she got back to me eventually and said, hey, I found something for you. And I was like, oh, fantastic. Look, I don't care. Whatever it is, I know what this project is going to be. I'll be a busboy in the background, whatever you need.
I mean, there are certain people, if they call, you don't care what it is. You just say yes because you know they're thinking of you. They're thinking of quality.
And again, then I got a message back from her, and she said, look, the director, I'm not going to say his name, thinks you'd be better for this other role, which was a better role. And I thought, oh, I'm going to say no to that one. That sounds really good.
I mean, if you think I should do it.
I guess.
When you think about it, no, I said, look, if he thinks that that's a better role for me, of course, it's all good. I mean, believe me, I'm setting this aside, and it's the number one on my list of things to do. So again, I'm teasing a little bit here about what it is, but
please, to me, that's like a trailer without a trailer.
It's a lesson. It's a lesson in trying to keep your act in front of the right people. And again, it'll be. Yeah, honestly, it'll be a nice little scene. It'll be kind of fun. But the main thing is to get back in front of this particular person and his whole world. And the next thing that comes along, maybe something will be a little bit even more pronounced. And I said, it's worth doing on a lot of levels. So.
Well, it also starts to build a tribe at a certain level where you know that if you ever should have a project, I don't even know if you've considered that. Or gotten involved as a producer on a project already written, you have a tribe of people you can pick from, a talent base that looks out for one another and has a certain threshold of quality.
It's fun to work with friends, and you can have a little more confidence that they're going to deliver, because all you really are hoping for when you're on the set is that this person is going to deliver and not make your life complicated, or they don't ever want to fire you or recast, but that happens. But,
don't get me wrong, we might have some complicated friends, but when it comes down to getting the work done, they get the work done. So. It's
good to have friends, definitely.
Phenomenal. When are we going to see you? You're a musician. When are we going to see you in a music role of some kind, or a musical film?
You tell me. I don't know. I'm open. I was in Jersey Boys, the movie, but I didn't see that.
I loved that movie, by the way. That's one of my favorites.
Well, and again, it was working for Clint Eastwood, and who was the director on it, and that was pretty iconic.
Yeah.
And again, it was playing the accountant, but doesn't matter.
So good though, so perfectly cast.
Yes, I thought so too. And Clint was a trip to work for. He was just everything that I'd ever heard about him was true. Super cool, super chill. I said
he's very gracious. He just kind of rolls and very personal with the actors. And
what I kind of noted, and I'm sure there's Video Village, and Video Village is on a sound stage, the set, and the actors are over here. Somewhere off in the distance is a bunch of monitors, and the producer and the writer and the director, and they all sit and and they watch the monitors, and and headphones on. But Clint, very old school, before there was such a thing as monitors, directors would stand next to the camera and
Oh,
watch.
I love that.
So that's Clint's style still. He has a monitor, a little tiny monitor in his hand, so he can check what the camera's seeing. But he watches your performance
He
just
wants
off
to
camera.
feel it.
So yeah, and I love what he says. He doesn't say action. He goes and he says it in kind of a very Dirty Harry-esque voice. He goes, "Whenever you're ready."
Okay, I love
this.
I was really ready till I heard that. And then I was like,
love this.
okay.
I do always stand next to the camera when directing. I don't sit in Video Village. I have a guy that sits in Video Village for me. Can't stand it.
Yeah, everyone, it works for
I'm doing different stuff though. Like it's reality stuff. So I'm trying to kind of coach things out of people in the moment. So it makes sense. Like Clint's doing it because Clint's just flat out awesome.
But he's got a system that he already had been around for 30, 40 years when he was doing Jersey Boys. So he knew how the old school guys did it, and that's how he started. So I'm sure he's more comfortable at this stage of his life and career. Just the continuity of how he works is made sense.
It works. What he does works. People love working.
The end result is good. Yeah. He's a classic for sure.
His offspring is, from what I understand, the same way. Stunt coordinator, not director, but
I know I worked with Scott Reeves, I think is his actual son, but who's an actor. And he's got a couple kids, but
Yes.
His daughter's an actress too, right?
I don't know, but
that's kind of an impossible standard to have if you grow up as one of his kids. Your kids too. Didn't all of your kids have done film or television at some point? No,
not really. I mean, for just little favors. Spencer was in Tremors because I knew the director was a very good friend of mine.
Cool.
He knew Spencer was very obsessed with his Worm movie, so he put him and his son actually.
Cool. Phenomenal musician as well.
Yeah, he's much more of a musician and artist. Actually, his art is being displayed in Santa Monica today at a big gallery down in Venice, the Bergamo Station, and he's got a whole other world that's opened up to him. So he's
fantastic
doing that, and and Haley did a little bit of acting too, but neither one of them.
She does a little bit of everything. Haley, I think Haley's going to be a director. She's a visionary.
Good eye, and a good eye for painting and art and all that. So she could do that.
Look at you.
Well, so while we're on this subject, I have to ask, because my kids were also child actors, maybe not to the level that you were, where you're on a show for, I don't know, a decade, but they did a bunch of stuff, and then my son especially has gotten into theater, and my daughter is kind of doing some theater stuff. How was the transition from that into being the adult actor? Were there certain things that you wanted to do? Did you walk away from it for a while and come back? Like how did you make the transition, or did it just flow right in?
No, I knew pretty quickly. There was no like indecision, like now what do I do with my life? Should I go to college? No, I immediately enrolled in acting classes, and and I was always being told by my parents, preparing me for this really tough world. If you're going to stay in it, you can't just rely on being this cute kid. And I wasn't that cute kid anymore at 18. When I was 10 or 11, I was a pretty cute kid, but and you can get a whole career done out of that. But they said, you've got to be prepared. If you're going to do this, you got to go train. And their idea of training was do Shakespeare and blah blah blah. And a little bit. I understood, but I kind of also went, I want to be Jack Nicholson. I want to be truthful and honest, and and I want to go use my instrument and do that part, become that kind of an actor. And probably I did not a little film, because there were no such things but it was a TV movie with it's called The Elevator, and everybody was in. It was, Oscar winners galore. It was Myrna Loy, Teresa Wright, Roddy McDowell. I'm sure your audience probably doesn't know the name, but he was way back, as a child actor in the 40s, 30s, but transitioned to a very successful adult career. And I was probably 20, and I think I asked him, I said, what did you do? I was post My Three Sons, but I was working. And he said, I went to New York. You should go to New York and learn about life and theater, and get out of LA. So I went, oh, that sounds really like fun. And so, and in addition, it made sense. So that's what I did. And
is this where the trouble started? I'm doing the math at the time in New York.
Well, yes, there was a lot of trouble going. I mean, fun trouble back in the 70s, the early 70s. New York was
so
Wild
lucky.
West, and there was no internet, and there was nobody,
no one to document it.
Nobody, no iPhones to catch you doing all these naughty things. It was a blast, and I wound up doing some plays on Broadway and off Broadway, and and hung out with guys that would become superstars. I kind of fell into a very good friend of mine, Steve Railsback, and I were in a play on Broadway called The Skin of Our Teeth. Steve was a member of the Actors Studio, and the first day of rehearsals, he said, we were the youngest guys in the cast, and he said, we started talking. He goes, I'm going over to a birthday party at this studio. You want to come with me? I was like, yeah, sure. So, go to the studio, the Actors Studio, and it's Elia Kazan's birthday, and they're throwing a big party again. But, the people there were Pacino, Robert De Niro.
Never heard of them.
Mickey Rourke, James Woods, Treat Williams. People that, I kind of then fell in with this little group that were mainly Steve's friends, but I was being introduced to these people too. So, I was lucky to fall in with the right crowd and it was, again, it was pretty wild, but fun.
Epic. Yeah, man, everything for artists, 70s, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s was pretty great.
It was a lot of, again, it was to be a young guy, 21 in New York on my own. I had some money from my three sons, so I wasn't living
freedom.
And I lived with my uncle actually when I was there. But again, it was formative and in the right way, and exposed to a lot of really good people and how they were approaching their lives and career. And I was taking notes.
So how did you stay grounded?
Grounded? I don't think he said anything about staying grounded. I think he said he had fun.
I mean, but you seem grounded now. I mean, and you
I was grounded. I mean, and these people were grounded. I mean, they weren't like stars. Some of them were, but I didn't know them all that terribly well. But they were grounded in their art, and they were committed to their craft. And and they, that I kind of took note of that, and that's a good lesson. And I mean, obviously, if you're famous, you use whatever you have to gain whatever you're looking for. And I saw that happening too, whether it was with women, whether it was with guys, whether it was, meeting the right directors, getting the best drugs, whatever it was. If you had, that was part of that world. Again, all lessons in life.
One thing I learned during our pandemic and during our strikes, I started, because we have social media now and everybody has an opinion about Hollywood. We take a lot of unnecessary, unwarranted criticism from the general public who just want to see our stuff. They don't really want to hear from us. They don't really want to know who we are. I thought, wow, what a loss. I meet incredible people every day on set. There's hundreds of people on that call sheet, and damn it, I want to know them, But I noticed the criticism is that we're all entitled, we're all super wealthy, we're above everybody else. And I was like, that's just not there. Even my most famous colleagues that I've worked with aren't that way. It's not as common or as general.
Again, going back to high school, it was the lesson learned there. Like, people assume you're this person, and you go, I'm not that person. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. You're very influenced and impressed by this TV series, and I'm there, in this little box in your house, in your living room every week. But now I'm here, full time at school.
Right.
And again, dealing with the new world of Facebook and Instagram, and people make assumptions about you, whatever. And and I've get the you're part of the Hollywood elite. Particularly if they don't like whatever your political viewpoint is.
Yeah.
Occasionally I put that up there, but I try not to refrain.
But
again, if they don't like it, that's the first thing they go to. Oh, you're part of that Hollywood elite.
You're one of them.
Yeah, right. Hollywood elite.
I love avocado toast, if that's what you mean.
I don't really know. I didn't have brunch this morning, with Leo.
Right. Oh, Leo. Oh, is that after Bob? Bob called and he wanted to. Yeah. It's a weird. I think I've accepted to some degree, to some extent, the people that consume what we create own a piece of us for themselves, because it is personal what they choose and what they love, and it's like a time capsule. Especially, and I don't know if it's different for men. As a woman, when you come into an industry, either as a child or if you're sexy, attractive, they'll never forgive you for not being that anymore. You always have to be that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been forgiven long ago for not being as sexy and as hot as I used to be. So
you talk like that's past, like that's in the past.
It never really was with me in any way, shape, or form. So I never had that difficulty of making that transition, because I was a character actor when I was a kid. I mean, honestly, in my mind, I've kind of figured that out when, I had buck teeth and glasses and did fit the mold in that era of what the classic child star looked like. And of course that evolved, and maybe I had something to do with it, because kids were all shapes and sizes and colors. And, that started to change probably, like I say, in the late 60s, early 70s. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I had to look, like my brother Stan, blonde hair, blue eye, light complexion. You were the perfect little American boy. And, I probably put a little dent in that image.
I love it.
That kid.
I love it. I came in a little bit later, obviously. I was born in 75. So for me, growing up with icons like, I saw Rita Moreno and I saw all these ethnic people that were busting in, and I watched Lucy and Desi on TV. I was like, oh, okay. I thought that's the way how it was everything. To me, I must be naive. I thought the world was colorful, all denominations, all different backgrounds, everything, because that's what I grew up in a major city, and it's all I've ever seen, and I've been all over the world. But apparently I'm wrong.
You were wrong one time in 1992. I think that's when you said you're wrong. Most times you're right. Joke. Not very funny.
I don't need to be right. No,
that's where we grew up.
Silly.
We grew up in Cleveland Heights, which was just a really diverse, wonderful place, and it's hard to explain to people who weren't from there. Like when I first kind of encountered some of the weird other things out there, racism and misogyny and other things like that, it was kind of like, what is this? We grew up in a place where there was blacks, Italians, and Jews, and we all got along. We all ate at the same restaurants. We all listened to the same 4 kinds of music, and that's just where Lisa and I came from.
Well, we all hated the Cowboys.
I could have gone to Hollywood Professional School, and my parents wisely decided to not protect me from the real world. And again, I have a connection with a peer group of my own age. Some of these guys that I know that frankly did not do very well post their big famous shows as child actors. Some of them just thought they were owed like the next role.
Yes.
Because they'd already paid their dues, and why should I go in and read? I never had that. I never had that.
I can see how that can become a reality, though, because your identity, if it hasn't already been formed, or if you don't have a solid foundation of love and support at home, you can kind of lose yourself in trying to find your identity as a child. Well, everyone's focused on you.
You're suddenly rejected by the people that loved you the week before.
That's deep.
And if you're a kid or late teens or whatever, young man, you're it's confusing. And again, I luckily had parents around me that prepared me for the worst, but again, encouraged me to do the best. So, it was a good combination of prepping you for the real world, which is...
and you made it, to be honest, and not every child actor does. I mean, there's you and Kenan Thompson, and you guys have done great, and there's, 10 other guys that didn't necessarily fare as well, but I think
Ron Howard, I look at Ron and go, wow, look what he did with his life. But he was very, very early on. I could see he was really driven to kind of be more than just Opie or whatever his name was on Happy Days. But I'll tell you, and it's kind of luck of the draw. He got lucky. He hit American Graffiti and parlayed that into Happy Days. Made a ton of money, good for him, all good. But at the same time, he parlayed that fame, did Eat My Dust for Roger Corman, and gave him his first directing.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I'm famous. I'm on the show. You can use my character and whatever, but I want to direct. And so, he
Ooh, good timing on that too.
got some really good opportunities that he took full advantage of. So, good for him.
Yeah, for real, good for him. Yeah, timing is a lot of it too. Where it's just, I'm someone who has bad timing. I hit this industry a little later. I had to do 9/11 first before I left New York and got to Hollywood. My intention was to do Broadway. And then, strikes happen right when I'm trying to move things forward. I have bad timing, but I see people that have expectations. And I feel like this is the wrong industry to have expectations, because there's no right or wrong recipe to get where you think you want to get to. And B, you got to leave room to change and adapt to what you think it is that you want, because every new experience grows your consciousness and grows what you want, what you want more of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, you have to be, again, you have a plan, you set out that plan. Usually life has some other kind of wrinkle or road. And it's how flexible are you, and how much you can, not go off the rails because things didn't pan out the way that you thought they should have,
right.
Or what you thought you were owed, and you're not owed anything.
Owed. Oh, that's cute.
You think life or this business owes you a favor, it ain't going to happen, and you're only deceiving yourself into thinking that you should be getting something that you're not. So
that's true.
That's that way in life.
Do you feel like we still have, I was reading something the other day, people were criticizing true movie stars. Do you think we still have, or are we birthing movie stars the way that people, I guess, accept them?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's because movie stars were larger than life. They were all on the big silver screen. Now they come to your, you can get a big screen in your den.
I'm right here.
Yeah, there you go. So movie stars, that sort of went hand in hand with the idea of a movie star, and you were just in this fabulous movie palace, and your face was 10 stories high, and and now it's all minimized in a little box, and there are very good actors and great actors that, I see all the time on shows that I really like. But movie stars, it's Timothée Chalamet seems to be the kid, this guy who's moving into, the shoes of a Leonardo DiCaprio, who, maybe was the last big movie star. I don't know. Titanic sort of catapulted him into that status. And, but, the Al Pacinos, the Jack Nicholsons, the Kirk Douglases, whatever, those guys, Steve McQueen, they were movie stars. And they did movies. That's exclusively what they did. They didn't do movies. They didn't do commercials. You see every George Clooney selling you toilet paper now. And you go, wow.
That's right. You see a lot of Oscar award-winning actors selling stuff in commercials now.
Yeah, it was very taboo to jump even to TV back then, or series.
When Fred McMurray did My Three Sons, that was really, really a big change because he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood. Probably in the 50s, 40s, Double Indemnity and some of the other big movies that he did. So he was a superstar. And then to do TV, and he sort of, I think, did that as a life choice. He just didn't want to travel anymore. He liked the schedule that they set up for him. And so, I remember he said Robert Young, who did Father Knows Best, said, "Oh, you're going to do television? It's a backbreaker. You'll never see your kids. You never see your wife." And so he didn't have the deal that Fred had. Fred really to get him into doing My Three Sons. So he was out the door at 5 p.m. every night. In at 8, out at 5. They shot all of his stuff at once, shot the masters and his close-up, and it would be just focusing when he was there. We'd have maybe a 7-8 month shooting schedule to do 25, 30 episodes. Back in the early days, it was 45, whatever it was.
Jeez.
But anyway,
it doesn't happen anymore now. It's
6
episodes. You're done.
Yeah. So he had a really great setup there, and but again, here's where it got weird. After the show, I saw him doing Greyhound bus commercials. I thought, what? How much money does this guy need? He was known to be probably the richest guy in Hollywood, richer than Bob Hope. And I was sitting there, my apartment came on. I'm watching the middle of the day or whatever. And I go, oh my God, look at him. He's doing a commercial.
Yeah.
I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I found out not too long ago, I was working on a song that I wrote called The Ballad of Fred McMurray. And I talked with one of his daughters, and he was with and she said, oh no, Fred lost his whole fortune. All the money that he'd earned from movies and My Three Sons.
Oh.
An accountant that screwed him over. And in fact, John Wayne, who was another guy, did Wells Fargo commercials, maybe before McMurray did the Greyhound bus commercials. And again, it was like unheard of that a guy of that stature would do a commercial, let alone a TV series, do a commercial. She said he had to go, he had to do it. He needed the money. He had to do that. And he had
Jeez.
she said it really hurt for him because, he bought into the whole idea. Movie stars don't sell products and don't do
Right.
and it was probably a big compromise in his head to do the TV series, but really forced to do it to try to earn some money.
There was a moment when a lot of the Oscar award-winning actors would never touch television, but quite honestly, for some of these nouveau television shows has been extraordinary, and now it's kind of a thing.
It's all about money. It's all, though they pay them extremely well. Sadly, it takes some money away from non-star actors who
for sure
cast in those roles. But now Danny DeVito and George Clooney. I mean, everybody does commercials, and you go, yeah. So movie stars, I don't know. Where are the movie stars today that
right?
You go, I don't know. Is a lack of integrity that they would deign to do those kind of lowbrow jobs of selling people whatever, I like to quantify it lowbrow, highbrow.
Yeah, there's definitely jobs that are better than others, and a lot of them are paychecks for sure. So don't get mad at us when we do stuff that you don't like. There's reasons. Half of it's editing. That has nothing to do with us. Where it comes to, I don't know what your opinion is about the direction that we're headed now, since we're coming up on the end part of our hour. I'd love to ask you, are you looking forward to the future? We touched on independent film. I agree with you. I think independent film is kind of everything right now in terms of making content and getting it out there. I hate the word content, but how do you see the next decade of Hollywood?
Well, again, Hollywood is disappearing because financially it's just impossible to get a project done. That's why you're where you're at, I'm sure. And
yes,
people, it's spreading out. They're trying to repair that a little bit to get more credits, film credits, to make it more doable to film in LA. But just in terms of content, I mean, AI is scary. I don't know. I don't think it's going to replace actors, though.
You haven't sold your likeness yet, huh?
Yeah, but even if they did, I just can't see, I mean, they can use my likeness. They got to pay you for it. But say like George Clooney, I don't think people want to pay to see the George Clooney AI. I don't think they use drama.
No good actors will translate to AI. Good actors,
and I think even audiences who maybe don't know the difference, they want an experience that challenges their world, and they want to see. Yeah. They want to see conflict. They want to see resolution. They want to see real drama. And is it really truly drama to see some artificial intelligence, two actors that are, avatars of what they used to be, having this? I don't know. I just don't see that.
I think they'll feel the absence of energy. I feel like humans will discern something's wrong.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, it'll be the little mistakes, and it'll be too perfect. And, as AI will maybe create the worlds that they exist in a little more seamlessly and a little more, but in terms of the actual content that they're putting into the production and the play or the movie or whatever, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. I don't think
you're right.
There you go. Yeah. I hope I'm right. Is that I think people will reject that. They may try it and go, let's see how that works. It'll be Scarlett Johansson and George Clooney. They're avatars. They won't be them, but they'll be, and I just think people go, what? That's not what it's like in theater. People are experiencing something that because there's real people in front of you, they want to see that real life depicted.
They want to feel alive. Well, maybe there'll be a surge in theater. Yeah, that would be
I was thinking that. I thought, wow, it's good. I got a little bit of my toe in that world because I'm going, I love it. I enjoy it a lot. And if that's all I've got left, and if I could do it on a regular basis, I can still remember to put my pants on the right way.
Yeah.
Not my, that would be lovely. So
we'll I think theater really has done well recently because people are to the point where when you're going out, you're looking for a premium experience now. And I think the pandemic did that to all of us. People don't just go out willy-nilly anymore. It's you're looking for a premium experience. If I'm going to go to the movies, I want the biggest screen, the IMAX, the 27 different speaker sources. I want to go to the theater. I want the big musical production. I want to sit, in great box seats or whatever and have cocktails. Like if I'm going to spend $400, $500, okay, great, let's do it. But make it a premium experience. Make it the Sphere in Las Vegas where I'm seeing the Grateful Dead projected on the ceiling now,
fine. That's some other world that I don't know. Like the beauty of the movies, the old movies, was you could go and lose yourself in a fantasy world and it wouldn't break your wallet. You could go to a movie in the when I grew up, 50 cents would get you in to see Spartacus.
Did you sneak out and go to other films like we did?
Of course. Yeah. But again, it would be a triple feature. You could sit there all day long and watch for 50 cents. Again, back in the day, 50 cents was probably like $10 today or something. Yeah. But still, it wasn't like the Sphere and $500 to go see Grateful Dead. Well, how many people? I mean, there are people that'll do it, but the movies were an everyman's art. It was an art form.
I wanted to stay that way.
Everyman, and you could go and see an experience that had some relevance and make you feel something. And I hopefully, that'll be somewhat of the future. I don't know if that'll ever go.
I mean, I can't imagine us going full AI. I feel like it's a Wall Street toy right now to make money, but humans are going to want real arts, real creativity.
Even though, movies is digital and it's all, it's very much technology is involved. I still think at the end of the day, they want to see two people interacting on screen.
Yeah, you can feel that.
We are people, I don't want
to ask you
robots, how they're getting along.
Yeah, they're not. They're programmed. Final question, minute. Off the top of your head, what still brings you magic? What is magic to you that keeps you going?
Well, music, my kids, my wife is
who is awesome, by the way. She's incredible.
Yes, and we've been married for. Well, we met in 1980, so what's that, 45 years? We've been together, married in 83, 42. So, that's pretty magical to me that spark still exists. And being part of anything that has some connection to the real world, play, a movie theater, a movie experience,
Art museum.
I crave for more, and I don't think I'm done yet. So
no, not at all. Oh my God, I could tell you're not done.
You don't seem done at all,
so many
Mary.
Stories inside.
We'll see about that.
There's so many stories inside. Well, you're not allowed to retire until I can hire you, so there's that too. I don't have it yet.
You had to bring me out of retirement of that.
Yeah.
There are days that I go, I don't know, maybe it's over, and nobody tells you. There's no dismissal notice. No HR goes, oh, you violated something. The phone just permanently stops ringing.
But this is why we have tribe. This is why you build your tribe, your community, to sing your song back to you when you might have lost it. And that's what you did for me today, by the way, sir. So I'm grateful. Yeah. I love you to death. I miss all of you guys. At some point, I'll come back and visit. But for now, thank you so much for giving us an hour of your life. There's a lot going on.
And Barry, you got to come back and visit us when your project does come out so we can.
Yes. The thing in the future that we don't know anything about.
But we're also very excited that you have big things in the works.
Yeah, there's another film that's coming out called Looking Through Water. They just changed the title of it with Michael Douglas.
Oh, awesome.
Say that. And that should be coming out pretty soon. I know they just changed the title from Blood Knot to Looking Through Water. So Looking
Through Water.
And
there you go. Meanwhile, you can follow Barry on social medias. He's got his IMDb page. You can see all the work he's done for the most part. And I hope you guys come back next week, the week after. We have more guests, but I'm thrilled that we can spend this hour with Gary Livingston.
Gary?
Oh, yeah, Gary. I am tired. Barry Livingston.
Anything works. Just call
Darling, just the check's gotta cash.
I know. Sorry to call you out.
Barry, I'm sorry. I love you.
No, I know. You're perfectly fine. Love you too. See you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Yeah, sorry. Bye.